You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello, pet lovers. This is Michelle Fern, host of Best Bets for Pets on Pet Life Radio. Okay, today we're going to talk about how Nicky hurt his foot. No, we're going to talk about much more than that, but it's something so important. Anyone that has a fur kid with a paw, it wants to listen because it can happen to you or to your fur baby, I should say. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
It's hard to find time for your furry family member. That's where Camp Bow Wow comes in. All-day play and overnight camp, daycare and boarding for dogs. Everything is included. Large play areas for fun and exercise. Spacious cabins, comfy cots, even live camper cams to watch from a computer or smartphone. Camp Bow Wow offers the best care and is the place to go where a dog can be a dog. For locations and more information, visit campbowwow.com.
Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to introduce Ron Shea. He's the Vice President of Sales for Protégé Biomedical. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so I love everybody with like a little... Nicky is okay, by the way, everyone. But a little interesting introduction. We're talking about Protégé Biomedical. So people are probably thinking, what's up? Tell everybody what Protégé Biomedical does.
Certainly. Protégé Biomedical is actually a parent company, and that company has developed a hemostatic blood-stopping powder called ClotIt, ClotIt. And in today's world, there are a lot of instances where accidents happen and bleeding occurs. So this particular product is a very good new technology that's designed to do 2 things for our pets. One, it's designed to stop bleeding from any external wound very quickly. And then secondarily, to keep that wound stopped, or, if you will, create a hard clot in order to take the animal to the next level of care.
This product came at a great time because I had a situation, as some listeners know, we were moving our studios. And while you're moving, you are just, it's super busy time. And sometimes you don't focus on the test crew as much as possible. Well, as I was literally driving from our location, the last, load, I noticed Mr. Nicky, and he's a little Havanese. Somehow his nail broke off. He's 6 years old, so he's not an old guy, but I've never seen this happen before. His nail just broke off and it was bleeding. And, I tried to wrap something around it, and, there's things you hear, put this on it, that on it. And I said, wait, I have this product that I just got, and I think it's going to do the trick, and we have to test it anyway, and this happened, so this is perfect. And I used it on his paw, and it was fantastic. I wish I had it with me in the car because I had to use whatever I could to put it, around his, his paw, his sure. toenail. But it just makes me think, ClotIt is such an important product to have all the time because you don't know when this is going to happen. The test crew gets their nails and everything done at a groomer because, face it, most of the fur kids, they don't like their nails done, and I don't want to do it. So, and nobody else around here wants to do it. And that's usually where people think, most dogs are going to, it's easy to cut the quick on dogs' nails, especially, if dogs have darker nails and you can't see it. Well, Nicky's a white dog and his nails you can see, but he just broke a nail. I don't know how this happened, and I've never had it happen before to any pet, but obviously it does. And having ClotIt around made such a difference.
You're absolutely correct. And animals, to some extent, are no different than humans. And humans were smart enough to be proactive about wound care, which usually means we have some sort of first aid product close to us, whether it's in a car, in our truck, in our glove compartment, in our first aid cabinet. So from a minimalist point of view, we should probably have the same stuff for our animals. For the most part, we know an accident's going to happen sooner or later, or during day-to-day types of grooming issues, human error takes over there too. So that is a perfect use on a very, very small scale as to what ClotIt does. It takes the inks out of you, the pet owner. It obviously allows the animal to be taken out of an emergency situation. And in the case of a nail, the clot is going to stay there so there's not bleeding all over that white dog.
Well, it was perfect, and you hit the nail on the head, pun intended, sorta, when you said ClotIt takes it out of an emergency situation, because this meant I didn't have to go, oh my gosh, he's bleeding nonstop, I have to run to the vet, or go to an emergency, animal hospital. And it was something, because he had a vet appointment scheduled later in the week anyway, and it was nothing. He just broke a nail. It just happens.
And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, too. The idea is behind using any bleed stop product, we're not trying to replace doing what a veterinarian would do or a doctor would do. We are just preparing the animal the correct way. Earlier you mentioned you didn't exactly know what to do with the wound, whether to wrap it up, tie it up, and you're not unusual. Most people, when it comes to doing or fixing a wound, have no idea how to proceed. So the really neat part about ClotIt is it relaxes the parent as well. So it's something that we need to prepare everybody that has a four-legged creature to be prepared for. And as you know, we offer a pretty compact, efficient first aid kit that has our ClotIt powder in it. And that first aid kit comes along with 20 or 21 very essential first aid items like scissors, tweezers, gauze, all of the things that you may want to use on a very unintended accident site.
How often, in listening, I know it depends on the activity of the animal, but how often would you say, based on maybe stats, is it likely that pet parents will run into an emergency situation?
I do not have access to any good absolute relevant number there, but from a personal side of things, and because we're involved with people that have had accidents with animals, it's not uncommon to have some sort of a minor use for ClotIt once a week. And I think that activity level of a pet parent with a dog, especially if you have an active dog or cat or other particular animal that you do things with, that increases the possibility of an accident. So if you're into walking or running or hiking with your animals, the incidence of a particular injury are going to be exponential.
Exactly. An animal that's basically indoors, you wouldn't expect too many accidents versus an animal that is very energetic and is going on hikes and so forth. But even for Nicky's an indoor dog, and he just broke a nail, and until I wish I had ClotIt in the car, but I didn't, and so he was just wrapped up, but luckily I did have it, and everything was fine.
Perfect. That's what we like to hear.
Now, how would it work? This isn't, the paw, so it was easy to use. What would you do on open wound on the side of an animal?
Okay. First of all, the product ClotIt comes in a powder form only, and it's based on 2 all-natural minerals. It's a very fine white, non-staining, non-stinging powder. So the first step is to identify where the animal is actually discharging blood or bleeding. Take some powder, put it on the smallest of the wound, and hold it there until it'll visibly clot, and you will feel the clot happening. That's on a small wound. On a larger wound, let's say you have a gash in the side of a dog, or maybe a dog fight that has a bitten ear. And there's a fairly good bite on the ear, and ears are notorious for bleeding. This powder, you would use enough to cover the wound. Since it's all natural, no chemicals, there is no harm in using as much powder as necessary to fill the wound. The variable is basically to how long you may want to apply pressure to the actual wound site. And it stops bleeding extremely quick based on our formula. Our formula, just a real quick piece of science here, any animal, including humans, have a bodily defense to stop bleeding. It's called clotting, and there's a whole lot more science behind that. What our ingredients do basically is help that animal create a faster response time to its own behavior process. So we're not injecting different materials or anything like that. It's simply helping the animal stop the bleeding faster. So back to the quantity question, you can literally put as much powder on as necessary depending on the size of the wound. Slight pressure, hold a gauze bandage over it if you will. You can peek at it as most people will do, and you will see a fairly significant speed in clotting. So, again, not an absolute answer because no wound is absolute in size, but our product is good from anything from a broken toenail to unpronounced, or should I say, a more serious wound.
Well, that's really good to know. What about cats?
Our product is good on any animal, from exotics, cats, dogs, birds, and it ranges all the way to larger livestock as well as equine. So it's a totally usable product on any sort of animal. All external wounds, if you can visibly see the site where an animal is bleeding, ClotIt will stop that bleeding, period.
And like you said, of course, this stops the bleeding. It's not a substitute for going to the vet. But you can use your own judgment as far as, does the animal need to go to the vet, or was it simple and is it something healing correctly? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but you have to use your own judgment with your pet. You know, in some cases, if it's just my personal opinion only, is if it's a nail that's either cut too short or something, to use ClotIt would be perfect. That I don't see the point of going to a vet for something like that. If there's a gash or an animal fight because you don't know what kind of care the other animal has had, whether they have had all their shots and everything like that, definitely you want to see the vet. And of course, if it's something, major, of course, the vet. But this is ClotIt's a great idea for, like you said, takes it out of the emergency situation. And in some cases, and I think it must be, of course you want bleeding to stop. You don't want your animal to be bleeding. So it's like a protection for your animal as well.
Absolutely. Again, it's falling back on the premise of ClotIt. It actually helps the animal's body repair its own body. And we, as I mentioned, we never suggest using ClotIt as a replacement for proper veterinarian care. And the two things that really ClotIt claimed to do and does do very well is, one, it will stop bleeding, and two, it will keep it stopped. So if the event of having to see a veterinarian is necessary, you get the animal there. And the third part of that is the product, although is a formed clot, a professional veterinarian can remove that clot upon bringing the animal in for additional inspection or care. So what ClotIt did was allow the animal to get to the vet, where the vet's professional education and training takes over.
The whole thing, and talking to you, Ron, and thinking about this, it almost seems like ClotIt forms, and nobody likes to think about this, but like an instant scab.
Exactly. A clot is just another word for a scab. And what it is basically the dried blood that basically is being held together by various parts of the blood stream, if you will. And that's what ClotIt enhances. It enhances that animal's ability to create, bringing the red, the white, all the other blood components together and forming that hard clot. There's a bunch of technical terms on top of that. I'm not going to give you those, but you're exactly right. It's like a human scab, and it's called a clot.
Now, everybody that's listening is probably thinking this is something I should have on hand, because you never know what your dog can get into. And dogs, even hot spot, if they chew themselves sometimes and start to bleed, ClotIt would work great for that as well. Where can people find ClotIt?
ClotIt right now is being introduced nationally through a lot of individual pet stores and clinics. If, in fact, that happens to be in a local area, great. If not, there's always the ability of going to our website at www.clotit.com, and there are several different forms of ClotIt on our website, from individual packages up through a very complete first aid kit that's available to anybody anytime.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ron.
Well, enjoyed it very much. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, listeners, I have a great offer for you. The folks at ClotIt have generously offered to give all listeners a 20% discount code. Just type in the word radio, RADIO, into the promo section on the ClotIt website when you place an order, and you'll get a 20% discount. How great is that? And ClotIt is the type of product you just want to have on hand. Add it to your first aid kit, or you can buy a first aid kit. The 20% off is good on anything that they have on their site. So you can just buy ClotIt, buy the whole first aid kit. Just having ClotIt and being able to stop the bleeding can save you hundreds of dollars that you would spend at an emergency medical clinic, and then you can maybe wait to see the vet during normal hours. But again, remember, it's not a substitute for the vet, but it's something to keep on hand to maybe take the emergency out of rushing to have to get taken care of absolutely this minute. And I personally think for just a minor nail bleed, it's excellent. So I'd like to if you forget what's the word, just go to the website. It'll be on PetLifeRadio.com. You can go to the Best Bets for Pets and look at the little blurb that we have. And while the promotion is going on, the code will be listed. Again, it'll expire the end of July, and the code word is radio for 20% off. I'd like to thank Ron for offering that. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank my guests for listening. I'd like to thank Mr. Nicky for unwillingly, poor baby broke his nail, testing ClotIt, and it worked great. And thanks to his bros, Dennis and Mr. Z, for giving Nicky, meow and bark, woofs encouragement. And thanks to my producer, Mark Winter, for making me and my guests sound great. And especially thanks to everyone listening, sending in questions and all of that great stuff. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this message from our sponsor.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back, right after we kibble a little with our sponsors.
When we ran out, we stopped using it.
Why would you stop?
Why undo all the good that's been accomplished? We thought everything was fine, and that was not a good thing.
No.
He started stinking. It was awful.
Shedding comes back, loss of hair, lots of dandruff.
Scratching will return. His shedding will increase.
If I ever took Roy off of Dinovite, he would go back to his hair loss.
DINOVITE.com.
859-428-1000.
When I get down to the bottom of my box of Dinovite,
when I get to about 3/4,
oh no, I've got a couple more scoops.
It's time to place my order. Dinovite.com.
Each and every day she is getting a Dinovite.
The omega-3 fatty acids.
Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa.
The digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Just feed your dog right. Use Dinovite. If it's working, don't quit.
Don't do what I did and run out.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, today is all about the sun and bugs. How does that relate to your furry babies? I'd like to introduce Kim Peschardt. He is the brand manager for Hurtta products, and we're going to talk today about the sun and bug block suit. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much.
So I, gave a little intro talking about the sun and bugs, and people, you did hear correct. This is a suit for your fur babies, for your dogs. It's not for cats, just for dogs. Tell us briefly, what is the suit for everybody that's listening to give them a good idea?
Yes, thank you. The sun and bug blocker is a new invention. It's quite revolutionary. There is nothing like it in the market anywhere in the world until now. And it is basically it's a tight suit that sort of looks like an athlete suit, I would say, or a yoga suit, which allows the dog to run freely in bushland and tall grass and wherever it likes to run that can be full of ticks and mosquitoes and stuff like that. And therefore, the suit has to be body tight so it doesn't get snagged or caught in things. But one side of this suit is that it protects against bites from ticks, and it does so really efficiently all over the body. But the material is made of the same UV radiation blocking material as we know in shirts for human beings. Many of us are we all use sunblock when we're out there, and especially if you're on water, you're on the beach, you're on a boat, or just basically in the sun, we use sun protection. Many dogs are exposed to the UV radiation like people are, especially, of course, dogs that are thin-haired or short-haired. Say the boxer. I think we all know the boxers, and they're a very good example of this. And that means that boxers and other short-haired, thin-haired dogs are exposed to the risk of skin cancer. And a couple of years ago, when I saw the first shirts on the market for human beings that we could wear, and I bought some and I tried them, and they were very comfortable, and they have an efficient blocking of an SPF 40%. I, of course, thought that this was very needed for dogs as well. One of my dogs is a boxer, and I know how she can get sunburns, and I take her to the vet, and I'm worried that this might be skin cancer that could be coming up here. And that was basically what caused me to say I needed the designers at Hurtta to develop a sunburn protecting suit. And at the same time, we were able to make the addition of the bug repellent that is a permanent bug repellent. So it also prevents against ticks, and that means that this suit is thereby very useful for dogs with long hair, because especially long-haired dogs attach the ticks and they can bury themselves in the fur, and then we will never see them until they have swollen and been biting. So with this suit, we're doing two good things. We are preventing Borrelia, and we are preventing the risk of skin cancer.
Well, it's certainly interesting, the idea of a suit, and I'm familiar, a suit, to protect your dog against the sun, against, bugs. And I think as there's been talk about the humanization of pets, and I don't really think of, there's the carriages for pets and all kinds of clothing for pets. But this is different because it's not just a cute little suit for your pet. It's protection. And
it is in a different way. You're absolutely right.
And also you mentioned for long hair, but a lot of us, and I have, Mr. Z is a long haired dude, but during the, warmer months, and we're in South Florida, so I say warmer months jokingly, but, it does during certain months of the year. We hit the 70s, people. That's cold for us. But when it's, summertime, I like to get him shaved. And so a lot of people do that during summer months, no matter where they're based, when it's a lot warmer, for their long-haired dogs. The dogs are more comfortable. And so I could definitely see this as being useful for any size, hair length dog.
You're absolutely right. And this suit actually, the sun protection is especially, the sun protection, the UV radiation protection is especially relevant for the short-haired breeds. And the same suit with the bug repellent it has in the fabric thereby makes it more, that is the angle that makes it relevant for the long-haired breeds. And the material is super light, it's flexible. And it's super light, just like the shirts that I think most people by now knows that we can buy to protect our arms and basically our body against the UV radiation. This suit is very useful for both the short-haired and the long-haired breeds.
Okay, now let's talk about how or when people would find the suits to be useful. I mean, if you live in a very, very warm place in the desert, you put it on even to just take your dog outside for a short walk. But when would people, find a need? I think if you're hiking with your dog, out on the beach with your dog, I could see there's certain times more relevant than others, or certain areas, if you're out in camping, there's more likely to be ticks than, say, possibly right around your home, although that's not always the case. What are your thoughts?
I think that we dog owners, we know that when we take one thing is just walking the dog on the daily walks on the sidewalks. That is not a big risk for ticks. But once we take it with us hiking, we take it camping, we take it anywhere where we know there's ticks. I think we all, when we come back from these trips, we check our dog to see if we check the dog for ticks, we remove them, and all this stuff. So obviously, knowing we are going into these areas, I would say that put this suit on. The suit is it crumbles up. You can hold it within your one hand, so it's very easy to have in a pocket of your shorts or just put in your backpack. It has basically no weight. It's very easy to bring along. That's sort of like the tick angle, and you being in Florida, you are very aware of mosquitoes as well, so anywhere where you would bring your dog to a mosquito-ish area, of course I would put it on as well. In terms of the sun and the sun exposure, I would say the same places, I would recommend using it the same places as we would protect ourselves. And that means any kind of longer exposure to the sun on anywhere, basically, because the dogs can get sunburned and get sunburns the same way as we can.
Very true, and it's very difficult to put on sunblock because you have a lot of fur. So I kind of think of it as, how would you put sunblock on your hair? You can't really do that. You wear a hat to avoid the sunburn.
Yes, you're right.
Except that, if you have thinning hair, I guess you could, but, I definitely see the purpose of it. Let's talk for a little bit about, there might be people listening that I love the idea of the suit. How's my dog going to react to it? So I tested Nikki and Mr. Z. They're both different sized, dogs. People that listen all the time have heard me talk about them. Nikki's a little dude and he's white. So I think he's more prone to sun. And Mr. Z's a gorgeous mutt that is much bigger, and he's black fur with white markings. And Mr. Z does not really like anything on him. He's had clothing in the past, sweaters and raincoats, and sometimes he gets used to them, sometimes not. So that's when I put the suit on both. That's what I was thinking about. I wonder how they're going to react to it. But I was kind of surprised because Mr. Z didn't mind it. Nikki never minds clothes, so he wasn't that good of a judge. But Mr. Z didn't mind it. I think this is the time he's least minded any clothing on him. So what is your experience and feedback you've gotten from people that have tried the Hurtta sun and bug block suit?
I love the story you tell here because it is actually one of the things that I so like about the Hurtta products. The Hurtta product comes in so many sizes. Most dog apparel things comes in 5 or 6 sizes, but most Hurtta things comes in 12, 14, up to 18 sizes, which means that there are so many more opportunities of making the perfect fit for the dog. And one thing is that it's perfect so it doesn't snag or burn or restrict the dog, but they can feel that they can run around and be absolutely free. And I have, your experience, I have tried it on I have a boxer and I have 2 golden retrievers, and when I put the sun and bug blocker on them, and it's this kind of tight athletic suit, I feel that they look like they're a Superman. They run around and they're they just feel They just feel like rejuvenated. That does not mean that some dogs will not accept apparel, and that goes for anything. And I'm sure that I don't know if they can be convinced, but the way that people should work with apparel, in being a raincoat or a warm wear jacket or the sun and bug blocker, is you put it on, and of course, like anything, we encourage the dog. We tell him or her that she's beautiful. We maybe give her some treats. We play with her, run around, and basically make the dog forget that it's wearing anything. And then what I have seen only is that, like, within minutes, they literally do forget that they are wearing something. They just are. They're just happy the way they are.
I was thinking the same. They have to get used to it. It's almost like brushing your dog's teeth, or even if, you have to give them medication, or they're once a month for heartworm or something like that. You have to get them used to it. And I don't believe you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because Mr. Z's getting up there. He's an old dude, but he accepts new. Not always the easiest, but he accepts new. So it's not too difficult for him.
But if the fit is good and it doesn't restrict the dog, I think it can be worked with like you did with Mr. D. And I think also we have all tried, when we put the collar on a puppy for the very first time, does the puppy like that? No. But we tell the puppy that she's gorgeous and da-da-da-da-da, and then they just get used to it.
Exactly. And some things like collars need to be done, because it's not like they can say, here I am, here's my name, and It's not like the Hurtta sun and bug block suit. It's not like I can't really think of a substitute for it, because there's, of course, topical stuff that you could put on your dog, but it doesn't protect from the sun. So, and also the topical stuff that you use to protect your dog. Sometimes I've had instances, I live in a place where there's a lot of bugs at times, and I've had experiences where sometimes there's just an outbreak of ticks, and it's not summer, it's, for whatever reason, there's just an outbreak. And no matter what I've used on the dog, it just doesn't prevent it. Fleas, okay, but sometimes not always ticks. And I love the idea that, especially in places where you might not be as familiar, camping or vacationing, or somewhere in the wilderness, or if your dog is just prone to has very sensitive skin, this is something great to use for your dog.
And I think also one thing, Michelle, that also is important, because I have seen that there are products on the market that sort of looks like human T-shirts, but for dogs, and says that it protects. And yes, of course, all sorts of clothing will protect. But this is a suit like an overall. It has a long neck, so it can be rolled up to cover all the way up to the ears, and it covers the legs. It covers, so just the paws are exposed, and it covers all the way down to the base of the tail. And I know, again, from my boxer, that those sunburned areas that has scared me, they have been all over the body, so it can be any place. So this is the only suit that truly offers basically a full body protection, except for the tail and the head itself. It is a very different thing, and it is efficient, and it is reliable. That's really what's important, I think.
Of course. And where can everyone listening find the Hurtta sun and bug block suit?
The easiest way, I suppose, would be that it is available on Amazon. It is also available from outdoors provider Cabela's, and it is a new product, so we are introducing it to pet retailers all over the country. But many online pet providers, pet equipment providers, carry it now, but we are also still in the process. We brought the product in a month ago, and we are getting it out there right now. Amazon would be an easy option.
Wonderful. And what about your website?
My website, which is Hurtta247.com, does not sell the product. We rely on our network of retailers, but we offer on the website, and you can look at the sun and bug blocker there, and you can see the size chart, and it explains when you take the measurements of your dog, then it explains exactly which size will be the perfect fit for your dog. So there is definitely good guidance to be seen there.
Okay, wonderful. Now, at this time, Kim, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to add?
Maybe just one thing, and that is, again, when we have been talking about one thing that is a positive side effect that I did not think about, but people that have started using the sun and bug blocker and used it on hikes and used it in long grass to protect against the ticks have told me that it is very efficiently protecting against burrs. And it actually makes perfect sense. So any kind of long-haired dog that is running through the grass is full of, it looks like a haystack when we come back. They're full of stuff. And of course, because of the smoothness of this overall, it protects everything, the entire body of the dog except for the paws and the head. And that's a nice and a good side effect of this as well.
That is. And I was just thinking, I wish there was little Hurtta paw protectors because Mr. Z has furry paws. And burrs get up into his paw pad.
Oh, yeah.
You always have to check. But that is a great benefit because burrs they don't like when you have to get them out. They're painful sometimes. They're really sticky. They're messy. So wonderful. I'd like to thank my guest, Kim Peschardt, for telling us about the Hurtta Sun and Bug Block suit. I'd like to thank Mr. Z and Nikki for testing the suit out. They had a lot of fun. They liked the treats. I had to coax Mr. Z a little, but once he had it on, he was okay. And I'd like to thank my producer, Mark Winter, for making me and my guests sound good. And, of course, thank all my listeners. There's over 500,000 a month, so pretty exciting, listening from all over the world. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for listening. Keep listening. We have a lot of cool products coming your way.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.